I feel I should preface this with a name. You can refer to me as Dan. I'm a 22-year-old college student from Minneapolis, and, well, I'm addicted to the internet. I keep a YouTube channel that I update every month with parodies of popular TV shows and an occasional video in which I address my viewers directly. However, lately there's been something truly bizarre disrupting my channel. It was the morning after I uploaded a new video to my channel. It had a thank you to my viewers for helping me reach 100,000 subscribers, along with a montage of myself doing silly things and, stuff that my fans suggested in the comments. So it came to a surprise when I checked how many views the video had and found it had more dislikes than likes. I'd always put a lot of work into my videos and my subscribers were, fiercely loyal. So I failed to see how this video specifically made for them could be received so freaking poorly. Looking through the comments, I saw dozens of phrases like, "I don't get it," and "What's this supposed to be?" And when I scrolled back up to the video, I realized it's not the one that I had uploaded last night. The video that I initially uploaded was about 5 minutes long with the title, "Thank You." The video that was on my screen now was 16 minutes long, and the title was just a timestamp. I went back to the previous page and I saw the real video was indeed on my channel. But this anomaly had been uploaded since then. Curious to see what it was, I clicked on the video and I began to watch. My screen showed a girl busily typing away at a computer. It was... No, not a girl. What the fuck? That was me. Nothing for the entire duration of the video, and it, randomly ended abruptly a few minutes later with no exclamation. I realized that I must have left my camera running while I was editing "Thank You" or something along those lines, and I must have somehow uploaded the junk footage with the intended video. After posting a comment apologizing for my mistakes, I grabbed my textbooks and I went to school for the day. I would delete the video when I had time that evening. However, when I got home, I spent a few hours finishing my homework and tidying my room. I ate a quick supper I cobbled together from random stuff from the fridge, and then I got right back to work on my channel. I glared in frustration on the screen when I found out that another unwanted video had been uploaded to my YouTube without my permission. This one was just over 3 hours long, and it began with me lying on the floor, flipping through my textbooks. There it showed me walking around my room, reorganizing my bookshelves and picking up clothes I had worn yesterday. Near the end of the video, I walked out of my room, probably to get some supper. What was going on with my computer? What the fuck was this? I had not even touched it since this morning, and there had to be something wrong with the camera. This can't be just some weird thing. There had to be something going on with the camera. So I guess I'll just check the camera, see what it was, and figure it out. Or it'd be only a matter of time before a video is posted of me changing my clothes or drying off in a shower. I delved into the innards of my laptop, trying to find the cancerous bit of code responsible for these accidental videos. I must have gone through every program and file at least 6 times over. But everything seemed to be in order. I couldn't find any malware or anything along those lines that may have been able to access my camera remotely. I gave up around midnight since I had classes at about 8:30 the next morning, and indeed I did need to get some sleep. I put a sheet of paper in front of the camera so that even if I uploaded another video, my viewers would not see anything. Because, there would be paper in front of the camera. It would be magical. Exhausted, I turned off the lights and went to sleep. Now, here's where the interesting bit of content comes into play. I checked my channel before school the next morning, and for some reason, it was exploding with activity. Every time I clicked that refresh button, on the last video I uploaded, I had 100 new views, which was absolutely unheard of to me at this time. I mean, like, I've had popular videos before, but nothing on this spectacular level. But how could a 6-hour video with a solid black thumbnail and a timestamp for a title be so sodding powerful? Or popular, even. I started the video, but nothing appeared to be happening. I looked at the comments for an explanation. Have you lost it? Why would you post this? What happened to the old videos? Is this some kind of joke? I don't even know what's going on. Reply, did you see it? See what? 30, 18, watch closely. Skipped half hour into the video, staring at the hand that seemingly was on a dead screen. Suddenly it looked like something was moving. It was hardly visible on black shift that only lasted a few seconds. But when it was over, I could recognize the faint outlines of the darkness. It was indeed my room. The movement had been of me shifting in my sleep. How could the camera have seen this? There's a paper in front of it. Not thick enough, maybe? When I, in the video, shifted again, I froze. The camera angle in this video was different than the others. My bed could not be seen from my camera. This video was taken from my bedroom window. And that's why I plan to delete my YouTube channel. She just found a song, Every Day by Carly Commando. She discovered it from a Simpsons episode. As soon as the song began, a spider, probably a baby, glided downwards, gently swinging from the lamp above the computer. The spider stopped in the center of the rectangle on YouTube. The YouTube I was listening to. She breathed in the music, staring at the small spider dangling in front of the screen. She let it sit and enjoy the music with her. She almost felt bad when she swiftly crushed it with a tissue while the final note rang through the air. The spider spent the last moments of its life soaking in the beautiful song that was actually used in an episode of Simpsons when Homer jumped off a bridge, attempting to kill himself. Right before his eyes, flashed before his eyes. Everyone has killed some spiders in their life and never felt bad. Like, why should they? They're only insects you share the world with. You'll never speak to them, bond with them. They're just kind of there. Annoying. Sometimes they will even make a human sick, or rare occasions they might even kill one. Humans are the same way. When we'll die, unless you won't care about them, unless you know them. You might feel some shot of sadness when you hear something on the news. The feeling can disappear into a breeze easily, though. As soon as it arrived, everyone else is just there. You might talk to them, but if they're gone, it's easier to move on with each and every passing second. Every emotion you'll feel eventually subsides until you are the one other people are spilling tears over. Humans are naturally very dramatic creatures that get bored easily. They are selfish and almost too willing to adapt something just so they can feel comfortable. The reasons why humans seeks out movies, books, any story on the internet is so they can find some sort of emotion. Why do they hunger for emotion so much? The answer, in my opinion, is quite simple. They can never adapt into emotion. Therefore, it's thrilling, even if it's gone as fast as it came. Emotion is very similar to a memory. It's not, if it's not there, then it's not. But you'll always know what it was like. But it fades more and more every moment it passes. I mean, like, think about it. Death is beautiful. Whether it is the muscles, including the lungs and heart, eventually relaxing, or your blood stroking your skin. When you're dying, there's no need to care about anything anymore. You are free to enjoy the pain and the fear and the soothingness of your life slipping away. It's a pleasurable, enjoying experience. I wish more and more people would focus on the exciting new feeling that they have been searching for all their entire life. When that short but everlasting moment of death comes, it's sad that all those billions of people can't hear the song that plays. So sad that those people can't refuse to listen to the lyrics of their memory and the rhythm of their heart. I suppose that they can't hear their own songs, but so they try to listen to another. But I am not human. I sound human. I can act human, but I am not human. Because I cannot die. I can fall asleep, but almost completely be repaired by time when I awake, much like a character from a video game, but I do not die. After a person's body has died, they will be trapped on the earth until they realize that they have been gone all along. Some might be trapped on the earth for a while others longer as punishment, but they will all die and eventually fade away and be reincarnated until their soul is finally allowed to be completely free to a place overflowing with beauty and dry boredom. I only look like whatever I want someone to see me as. I have a true form, but it is incomprehensible to anything other than something like myself. I usually allow humans to see me as a long, young gray cat, medium-length shaggy fur, all those fun stuff with amber eyes. Oh, I love amber eyes and a crooked tail. You might be wondering by now why I know so much about death and why myself can't die, because that is a magical question that everyone can answer. Probably not, though. My task here on Earth is to take souls and get them ready to go to this boring, dreadful, beautiful place. When my soul was first born, I instinctively knew how to carry out my task. Like how any human or any animal instinctively knows how to breathe. I am with every one of my, as you call them, victims before they die. I am their cause of death. Death isn't anything, though. It is a goodbye, and a hello, and a goodbye. End of a chapter, if you will. The human definition of death is wrong. Death is not the end of something, it's but the beginning. At first, my favorite part is getting a glimpse of the beautiful place, but whenever I would take another soul there, it would help let out the awful feeling of pain, fear, and abnormally drift away. Eventually, I knew that I would never enter the beautiful place, which is why it's dull. Until another soul that was the same as mine could be, well, the cause of my death. I gave up trying to admire the place, because it did nothing but taunt me with its dreary boredom. Now I know the best part of my task was feeling death when I deliver it. I talked earlier about how everyone and everything is just there and blah, 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 blah. That's just how I also feel about you. You are a part. You're the only part of you that is significant. The only part of you that is significant. Every part of you is significant. However, to me, the only part that's significant to you is your death. But by the way, you remember the little girl that I mentioned for the beginning of the story? I've taken her to that beautiful place. Her death was caused by a spider bite. Brown recluse. Shortly after she killed its baby. The brown recluse is a small spider with a back shaped like a violin, just behind its head. It is also known as the violin spider. Beautiful things. See you soon. Jack Burnett is age 26 on the 14th of February, 1993. He's charged with murder, found guilty, and issued a life sentence at an asylum. The court trials go through without incident. The incident in which this story takes place, however, is on the 24th of December, 1992, in the District of Columbia, Washington. Jack Burnett finds himself driving his pickup truck to a small ranch on the outside of the city. This farmhouse stood on a plain surrounded by towering trees. Its proprietor, David Shank, has hired Jack to find and kill what he thinks is attacking his livestock. He thinks it's a wolf. Being a professional hunter, Jack sees this as a quick, simple, and easy task. David Shank offers him information he has on the attacks, and then Shank notices that he would find one of his goats missing, and he would spot a cow corpse. These were no ordinary corpses. The carcasses seemed to be riddled with holes, about 10 of them on each and every one. These were deep, gaping holes, unlike any that he would have found left by a wolf's teeth or tooth. The only evidence of non-human entry or exit onto Mr. Shank's property were some deer tracks. They walked into the house, which was fairly ordinary as far as Jack was concerned. They sat at a table where they had coffee and discussed the terms of their agreement. Jack, the contractor in question, would be paid only upon completion of task. It was around 5 o'clock when Jack began investigating. He first went to go see the barn, nothing strange aside a hole-ridden cow corpse and deer tracks. Burnett went around the whole area. Nothing of interest, so to speak. It was too late to really investigate further. Night was falling. Jack and David prepared their armaments, 2 hunting shotguns, each utilizing 12-gauge rounds strong enough to pierce through 2 inches of steel. Their secondary arms was a standard 9mm pistol, which were both semi-automatic. And so they walked near the barnyard. It was 10 o'clock in the evening. David and Jack awaited for a good 2 hours. Shank fell asleep on the cold, moist ground. A rustling sound came from the woods. Jack Bennett's hands were shaking. He trembled. He was sweating like a pig. His forefinger inched towards the trigger of his shotgun, and a figure appeared out of the forest. A loud bang echoed across the woods. A ringing sound in Jack's ear prevented him from concentrating. His head spun and his eyes wandered, searching for something to make him relax. But all he found was far from relaxing. A half-dead, bloody deer with red guts, paste, spoon, and strewn around, hanging out of its place and fallen onto the ground as the creature was twisted and jerked. Burnett passed out beside David, who surprisingly remained asleep after the gunshot. Still dizzy from whatever happened, Jack Burnett rose from his slumber. The deer had now been dead for 3 hours. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and his living nightmare had just begun. Jack managed to prop himself up with the help of his gun. Of course, he placed his hand on David Shank's shoulder, shaking him lightly. The pair went over to the cornfield where Jack investigated further, and much to their surprise, they spotted 2 humongous antlers protruding out of the stalks. They entered a forest of small crops as they loaded their weapons 5 feet away. The sound of breathing and footsteps plodding through the damp soil filled the morning air 2 feet away. Jack was hyperventilating ever so quietly. His heart raced, spine tingled, and then he put his finger on the trigger. Trigger. Click. Echo. Deep breath. Better him than us, said Shank, who managed to smile at the dead mouse carcass. The 2 were breathing heavily as they ran a marathon. The pair headed back down to the farmhouse. Door, knob, twist, open, enter, close, chain, lock, slid, walk away. And for a moment, they felt safe. Everything was perfect in that little ranch house. Shank told Burnett to get some rest. Jack went to the guest bedroom, washed up. The freezing water hit his face, causing him to briefly shout. The sound of that shout never reached Shank's ears, though. The noise of heavy rain filled the corridors of the rooms of the house. Jack jumped due to the brief flash of lightning that followed a heavy crackling sound. Jack tilted his head towards the small window of the wall. What he saw next was indescribable. A pair of antlers entered Jack's peripheral vision. Then it disappeared due to the absence of lightning. Another strike of lightning happened, but what Jack discovered this time was that That was not the creature that I'd seen before. The antlers were now resting upon what seemed to be a humanoid head. He scanned the figure, which had its back turned to Jack. The pouch lights were now triggered due to the moment. Now Jack could see. Now Jack could see everything. A head with antlers, a humanoid head with antlers. Then Jack saw its body, a figure with hardboard human-like features, yet at the same time looked rather intriguing. Long, spider-like arms. Like arms that a man shouldn't have. Its skin was a pale shade of gray. Its figure was very unnerving. The thing's bones were too evident, as if he hasn't eaten enough. As if they were going to rip out of the figure's skin. The legs. Oh, the fucking legs. Jack had seen the legs like these before, except they weren't attached to a body of any sort of humanoid creature. They were attached to a body of a deer. These legs were very long and slender. Its feet were hidden on the ground. It had feet that was just... Then the lights went out, lightning the figure. The figure was now closer to the window, still having its back turned into darkness, akin to Slender Man. Darkness, then light out again. Jack stopped and froze. The thing was now looking into Jack. It was not simply staring. It looked at him. Jack was frozen. He didn't stop staring back. Whatever it was out of fear and awe. His eyes stared. The eyes of the creature were dazzling and horrifying at the same time. They were as if it was a white mist. The whiteness of the filled eyes brought nothing but fear. Its smile was also the most unnerving. It smiled in a way that almost looked wrong, as if its jaw was too small to hold that terrifying grin. The darkness, light, the thing was gone. Same as the others. It was riddled with holes. Jack nearly vomited. He leans closer, he touches the carcass, and turns out to be hollow. As if the cow had previously professionally been gutted. His skin crawled. He shuddered. It was 4 a.m. Jack hears a loud sound from the house. The sound of a dog barking. He runs, arriving at the door, he steps in. The door is still there intact. Figure towered over Jack in all of its 9-foot terror. In its hand was a familiar object. The object's name was David Shank. The figure walked closer. It contorted its back and it hunched. It bent its arms in strange ways, causing Shank to be flung around fiercely. And now it was standing over Jack. It smiled, the smile that only it could make. Jack closed his eyes as the figure stood over him, unblinking, unmoving. DC police found Shank's body impaled on a tree full of holes, a shotgun placed near the tree, the sound evidence of murder. The body riddled with holes, but it didn't turn out to be a body. It was just a piece of skin wrapped around some clothing. Police found Burnett's fingers on the gun. In court, Jack claimed it was not him, but the only thing he thought throughout the duration of his trials was, he's gonna come for you. He's gonna come for all of you. And then he'll take me. The Elk Man. Biological information origins. The Elk Man is 9'10". Its weight is unknown, or its race is unknown. Clearly it's an Elk Man. Its eyes are white/black. End of information based on police files. Little is known about the Elk Man today. It's only been seen once, and the sighting has been dismissed as criminal delusion. Based on Jack Burnett's description, the Elk Man had eyes that would shift from normal to black, pupils, and was deer-like. Here's a photo. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, That Creepy Reading, and I brought you another anthology episode because I could not find any good long ones. If you want to suggest a story, remember, you can always comment on a video, send me a message via Tumblr, Twitter, or Facebook, and I'll always take a look at all the requests if requested, and, it's a very good place to help me look for stories, or at least begin looking for stories. Any request is appreciated, and yes, I'll definitely take a look at it. Anyway, why don't we begin with the actual show? The first one was I planned to delete my YouTube channel. It was a fairly good, unnerving little story. It was fairly well written, and in the end, it generally had a little problems. First off, I'd like to mention that the story had some continuity issues, or had some issue with the actual writing where it felt disconnected, disjointed. I don't know what it was, but I feel that more detail should have be put into the story, especially if you wanted it to be believable. The twist at the end, however, was undermined by that writing and overall wasn't as impactful as I wish it could have been. But in the end, it's a great 6 out of 10 story. I plan to delete my YouTube channel. Whoever wrote that, will be linked in the description. It'll be magical. This was written by Chloe Dutchhamp. I would like to mention that I replaced the name of the main character to Dan because I am not a female, and I, didn't want to do a female voice because that would be excruciatingly painful on your ears. Enjoy the music. I absolutely love the way that this was written. It allowed me to play a character, and it was just magical and mythical, although it wasn't really that scary. It was just a simple exploration of human psyche, comparisons to other creatures, and all that magical stuff. It was a fairly enjoyable read, although not that creepy if you were interested in something creepy. It was just something that you could listen to and let that be a little dark. Now, why don't we get to the pile of rat shit known as the Elk Man? I am sorry. This is rat shit. There is nothing good about this story. It is entirely bad. Whoever wrote this, yeah, I would say, yeah, it's a really bad story. Now, why don't I read some of the comments to you? Right now, you should be able to see the picture. One guy who I don't know, I think his name is Jesse something, the Victorious, says, for being 1995, his sister is really good with MS Paint. Considering that that was a photo that he drew on paper. Also, I'd like to introduce, I have a little bit of a special guest who listened to me narrate the entire thing. Odin, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm Odin. I am the resident occultist and apparently arms specialist.
He is my arms specialist, apparently, because I'm a bad person. I don't know much about guns, but we're going to go through the story, and we're going to kind of take it apart bit by bit. And I'd also like to mention that I actually skipped through the story because it was just getting worse and worse. Instead of describing actions, he would just state what the action is. Like, the characters are running, so instead of saying breath was heavy, heart was pounding, moving through the woods at a fast speed, it was running, then at house. That's terrible. Don't fucking do that, ever. When he was in the bathroom, it was incredibly confusing, considering that there was lightning going on, and I know that the scene that he's trying to convey, but he was doing it so poorly because basically it amounted to darkness, light, things, creepy. Oh god, it's creepy! He didn't quite understand how hunting worked, because, again, hunting does not involve using shotguns that can puncture fucking steel, because you don't need a shotgun that can puncture fucking steel. I don't know if there are even... There might be shotguns out there that can puncture steel. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure someone has made something.
Well, there's, like, slugs you can use for 12 gauges that are capable of punching through steel. They actually have an armor-piercing variant with a small explosive charge in it that's also used.
But why would you use that for hunting? And especially for hunting... By the way, they were trying to find a wolf. They weren't hunting big game. They were hunting a small game wolf.
So buckshot would have worked.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense whatsoever. The entire story... Like... mind if I'm going to quickly just read out the beginning here, word for word. Jack Burnett, age 26, is charged of murder, found guilty. He's issued life sentence at an asylum. The court trial takes place, blah, 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 blah. And then the next paragraph begins with the words, District Columbia, Washington. You brought this up earlier, Odin. It sounded like the character was trying to write a noir, but it was absolutely terrible, and not a noir, because the writing is disjointed. There is no flow between words, but it's just terrible. And also, the reason I brought Odin on here is to explain why, in future, you should never say that someone went to an asylum in 1993.
Well, you see, during the Reagan administration back in the 80s, he was suffering from dementia towards the end of his career as president. So his wife, Mrs. Reagan, Nancy Reagan, essentially had him say that the people within the mental asylums were faking illness and that they could get better. One part of this was because she didn't believe in mental asylums. Another part was because she didn't want to have her husband go there at the end of his terms, because as things went on, his dementia was getting worse. He was becoming less and less of a person and was actually regressing into a child, which is one of the reasons why whenever you hear about Ronald Reagan, you also hear about Mama, which was what he started calling Nancy. So, past 1986, the asylums of the United States of America were no longer being funded and were shut down as time went on. So there are none in activity today or back in 1993.
Yeah, at least asylums in the classical sense. It's an absolute just fact checks, please, people. Fact check your stuff. The Elk Man isn't very a creepy design because of the way that the guy described him. I could see the Elk Man being a creepy design. I could see him being a great creature, but the issue is that you barely described him. You basically said Slender Man, but a deer. Furry Slender Man. That's what we get. Fucking furry Slender Man. Do we want furry Slender Man? Do you want furry Slender Man, Odin?
Not really.
I want furry Slender Man. He'll be furry. We can add it to Slender Boned. It'll be just Anyway, the bottom line is that this is the classical example of how a story can be done wrong. It's a good idea. Don't get me wrong. I like the idea. However, it's riddled with cliches like went mentally insane and he's coming after all of you. All of you. You know, he was a weirdo. He fucking there's no interactions. The guy's last name is Shank. Shank, for fuck's sakes. You don't. There is nothing good about the story. The idea is there, but the writing, execution, and everything about it is absolutely terrible. If you want to have an example of what not to do, take a look at the Elk Man and try to learn from the experience. The story will be linked in the description. You can read it for yourselves and take a look at it, or even read it as a creepypasta. The reason why this one was included as a creepypasta is because I was running low on actual creepypastas to narrate, so I figured throwing this one in there might be subtly interesting for you to listen to. So with that being said, Odin, you can say goodbye, lead them on any bit of advice for writing magical mythical stories, and with that being said, we can, I guess, hang up.
I guess when you're going to be writing these things, like Tinker said, do some backstories, background checking, fact check, and above all else, especially if you're going to be writing the supernatural, remember, there's more to, I guess, eldritch abominations, if we're gonna call it this, than tall, dark, and creepy.
I don't even think the design. I'm like, again, the design sounds okay there, but again, as soon as you start drawing in the Slender Man comparisons, it just fails. I mean,
That's the weird thing is that Slender Man is more or less a parody of a Lovecraftian entity known as Night Gaunt, which were like 12-foot tall, spidery creatures with pale faces, black bodies. They had these massive tendril-like wings, and they would hunt people by apparating around them randomly, and if you ever get caught in their gaze, they would sort of like teleport right in front of you and like drag you to some form of cosmic hell. And so that's the whole thing, is that there's more to cosmic horror and spiritual horror than just Wolfman and Slender Man.
Yeah. And I've read 100 and something of these stories on my channel before, and I'm not a writer, don't get me wrong, I couldn't write one to save my life, but I do know what makes a good story, and I do know what makes a bad story, And as soon as I see cliches, I lose interest in this story. And the more you include them, the more I lose interest. Now, don't get me wrong, cliches can be used to your advantage. Like some people say, you know, like blood. If you put blood in it as a cliche, I'm like, no, that's not a cliche. It's just that if you say, then he bled all over place, then it turns into a cliche. Poorly used blood is a, cliches will tear a good idea down, and I'd highly recommend looking them up and avoiding them, even listening to my content. Anyway, this has been a fun review. For those of you who stuck around to the end, feel free to like, comment, and do all those magical things with the button if you want to see videos akin to my own, and it will be fun. We can have more fun making fun of stories. But till then, I gotta say, till next time. Hope you enjoyed the anthology series I presented to you today, and let me know how you like the format. This has been your host, Creepy Reading, signing off.